We now have a segment that focuses on welding and joins. Starting with this welding on a corner which is badly finished and untidy, and although a relatively new installation, the dirt buildup on and around the welding can be clearly seen. The next join, which is a straight join of the coved sheeting, also shows dirt buildup as a result of poor welding. This join illustrates bad planning and set out of the work, as it would have looked considerably more professional if the cove was continued from the right hand side to butt against the pillar on the right hand side, giving a better and more professional finish. When having a closer look, you can see both the poor welding and the poor finish against the column, which will be an infection risk in any hospital. There's no need to have this poor level of work, and it should not be allowed in any healthcare facility. The next illustration is of extremely poor planning and set out of work, where you have 3 joins in and around a corner within 200 to 300 millimeters of one another, and the 2 attempts at a butterfly corner are on the same panel on the wall, which looks extremely untidy. Close-ups of the previous corner illustrate clearly dirt collection and probably also poor maintenance. Whilst workmanship is poor, there is no excuse for not keeping it clean, despite that it will be more difficult. The next photograph is an illustration of extremely poor planning and an example of why we say joins should not be planned to be in the corners, either vertically or in the cove between the floor and the wall. Again, it shows inconsistent welding, where despite the difficulty of being in a corner, the gap prior to welding was too wide, causing the weld to split on either side. The joins should never be in the corner, as they will always be a weak point. Focusing on the next illustration, this is a clear example of either the gap being too wide before welding, therefore giving a poor bond on one side, or possibly welding too quickly, again giving a poor bond, which in a matter of time will just pull open. This particular installation is no more than 6 months old, so will simply continue to deteriorate. Here again we show poor examples of welding in corners, which we do not recommend, and the inferior results can be clearly seen. For an example of a disaster in terms of finishing and quality, which is completely ineffective from a hygiene point of view, this photograph illustrates either a lack of capability and interest, or a lack of pride in the work being done, which will be of no value to either the client, the installer, or the manufacturer. This quality of work should have been condemned and not accepted by either the professional team, the installer, or the client. The next illustration on a corner with blue sheeting shows poor planning, as the sheet from the left-hand side could be continued around the corner to meet the existing butterfly corner, and also to meet the join coming onto the floor at 45 degrees, and would therefore eliminate the 2 joins on the left of the photograph. On closer inspection, 2 joins coming together, poorly welded at the base of an external corner and cove, shows clearly the bad result that you can expect. The shot of welding after the incidental maintenance shows the result of dirt buildup on a poorly finished weld, which will be as a result of roughness on the weld after either mopping or buffing with a machine. The dirt accumulation can be clearly seen, and again the gap was obviously too wide. On closer inspection, it can be seen that there is a double weld, and in other cases where the gap was too wide, the weld has not fused onto either side. On a continuous basis, these illustrations show poor planning, poor finishing, and in the case of capping, where the joints do not even meet correctly. One example after the other shows how badly the flooring has been butchered in an attempt to rectify poor welding, and in the case of the pink non-directional, you can see the effects of hot knifing to try and fix up poor welding, and with today's polyurethane coated sheeting, hot knifing is no longer an option and results in the destruction of the surface coating. This will finally create a dirt buildup, and importantly again, on the pink weld, the cut or trimmed welding should be glazed to avoid a dirt buildup seen in this illustration, and can be further avoided by putting a coat of Porasil sealer on the weld after it has been trimmed, being sure that the weld is clean before this application of Porasil, as Porasil is a semi-permanent product and cannot easily be removed. The cleaning can be done using a product called Resinox, which will give you a clean weld before the application of the Porasil. However, if the weld is trimmed while still warm or hot, it will have a concave finish, and no amount of Porasil sealer will avoid a dirt buildup, as you will have a hollow in the weld as shown here. On the pink flooring at the T-junction, the weld shows the effects left by hot knifing. The PUR finish can be clearly seen by the dirt buildup on either side of the weld. The next illustration, still on the pink non-direction flooring, shows poor planning with multiple joints in an area of 200 to 300 millimeters of one another, which are completely unnecessary, and further effects of hot knifing on closer inspection can clearly be seen. Further poor finishing can be seen against the wall, where the corner is an absolute disaster, welding again in the corner. Once again, capping has been extremely poorly fitted in the corner, leaving unacceptable bulges which are ideal nests for cockroaches. The answer here would be to have a mitre and seal the top lip of the capping in the corner. If necessary, even overlapping the top lip and sealing with the solvent cement. Unfinished edges are totally unacceptable. The corner illustration on the pink flooring with the wavy weld shows clearly the result of sanding the welds, which is not only incorrect, but using coarse sandpaper gives a very poor finish and is completely unacceptable, as the dirt buildup in the sanding marks can be clearly seen. The picture of the overall pink flooring shows the effect of poor cleaning or solvent wiping around the joints in an attempt to get them to look acceptable, thereby damaging the polyurethane coated finish, and when there is traffic on the floor, the difference in surface finish can be clearly seen on the join areas. Last but not least, pink flooring next to the maroon walling shows poor planning, bad installation, small pieces unnecessarily in the floor welds, not being synchronized in the planning, and poor preparation of the screed on the right hand side of the photograph. In the last few illustrations, it is quite clear that the coved sheeting is not firmly adhered to the PC20 cove former.